Hey guys, so I bought myself the Fiskars X10. That was the one I wanted to get when I bought the X11, and I said, well, either one or the other. But then I found this one at a very, very good discount, and well, that's how usually all my stories go. Wanted to buy something else, but then I saw this one, and I said, why not both? I guess for most people, it's down to what do you need? How much do you need from a tool, from a cutting tool, a splitting tool? And then don't carry more than you need, and don't struggle with what you have. Now, the X11 is a surprisingly good splitting axe. I didn't think it would split that good, actually. But then again, I never had a splitting axe. And also, it chops quite well. Now, this one chops much better than the X11S. And it's just about 100 grams lighter, 86 grams or so. Which honestly, I thought it was going to be a bit lighter. Now, I like to work with axes and hatchets one-handed. And the X10 and X11, you can actually do that. You can work with them with two hands. So, especially for this one, when you come to chopping, the X11 and the X10 are the same size. But when it comes to chopping, this one will just do a better job. And you know, for bushcraft, I like wooden-handled axes. But from a practical standpoint, I like these ones a bit better. Not because it's Fiskars or anything else, but the newer ones with this new shape. You have really nice corners here, and if you want to do something like this, split wood exactly where you want to split it, the piece of wood is going to get stuck in the corner, and then all you need to do is apply a bit of force. That's one thing that I like. Initially, before I had my X7, I wasn't a big fan of Fiskars. And when you do this, be careful you don't go all the way through the wood, especially in a plane like this, because it's gonna come flying. Takes a bit of experience in getting knocked on the head a few times. But like I said, this works very well. In this case, it's kind of thin. But yeah, you can do it. And I like that fact. Most bushcraft axes have a rounded profile, which is good. The cutting edge on the X10 is a bit wider than the X7. I don't know exactly what the weight differences are, so I can't help you with that. Maybe I'll look it up and post it in the description. Now, like I said, I like to work one-handed with axes. And the bigger they are, the heavier they are, and the harder it is. But I would say this one, it's actually quite in the middle. Now, I worked a lot with the X7 and my aim got pretty good. I work with my Gonzo hatchet, and also I'm more used to my Husqvarna carpenter's axe. That one is fantastic. Now this one, I don't know if it says here, but it says on the little cardboard it comes with. It's a carpenter's axe, for carving. I think that's what it says, carving axe. Just face the camera a bit better. I have a Urnieta small hatchet, which is great for cutting and help you out with your carving task. Just removing stock with not much effort put into it, because that's what axes and hatchets are supposed to do. Spare you that effort, you know. The problem I have with all bigger hatchets is that when you come to clean up something, let's say we want to remove this part here, which is a bit spongy, you want to go in an angle like this, maybe start from the bottom, right, and then go. But if you're holding on something, put a piece of wood on a log, and out here you don't have that special log you have in your shop or whatever, so you just have to always improvise. Then the handle will sometimes get in the way, especially if I hold it up here. Let me demonstrate. And want to work here, I might hit the bottom log with the handle. Now that takes some getting used to, but as it stands, it doesn't have the best grind for that, but it's a tool which you can get for a very reasonable price if you find it on a very good discount like I did, and you can get the hang of it. This is not going to be a tutorial video on how to work with axes and hatchets. I don't think I'll ever do that. I've been working with axes and hatchets for about intensely for about 4, maybe 5 years. I enjoy it, but I never really showed a how-to, because I still think these are dangerous tools. Much more dangerous than splitting wood or working with a big knife, and way more dangerous than doing the most of the work with an axe. Now you see this log, this was this big and very thick. That's one of the reasons I sawed it with my Laplander part way, then I chopped it to spare energy, and then I split it. And now when I'm going to split it into smaller pieces of wood like that, then I can split it in two with no effort. So it just a buddy of mine saw me chopping up and sawing logs that big, and says, "What are you going to do with those?" Said, "It's easier for me." So you just have to find what's easier for you. Like I said, you see this for removing material, whether it's bark or wet material on the outside of the wood. This one does fairly well. Now, if I would have a wider edge, a more cutting edge here, it would do even better. What you want to do is always come in an angle, so you're slicing. If you want to go like this, chopping into it, it'll work. You have to put more force into it. That's why I moved back on the handle. It's also gonna take a toll on your hand, on your forearm. It'll expend more energy. But yeah, it's doable. This, however, it's easier to just go in an angle. So now that I've showed that, and I wanted to show that because of the handle issue I have, just hitting. Well, I don't have it anymore. I had that very much so with my Husqvarna. Now this is a fairly nice piece of wood to split. The grain is fairly straight, so one hit, it'll do it. There are other pieces of wood which would be, or were, much more difficult to split because of a knot, or some have just grain which goes in all directions. but with a little practice, you can do it. Now, first thing I did with all of my Fiskars was about the same day, or maybe the same week that I bought them, was take them out here and see if I would break them within reasonable usage. Why don't I trust them? I don't know. I've had a few tools fail on me. Do I abuse tools? Yes. Sometimes I will abuse tools, but I won't chop into rocks with this. I will abuse it in the sense that I will try to split a bigger log, maybe jam it in that log and try to break the log apart. Should you do this? No. Why do I do it? Because these, and well, the Fiskars are well known for how resistant the handles are. However, with all handles and all tools, all blades, you want to make sure you test them before you actually need them. As you can see, this is all very improvised here. So it's not always working as planned, but that's life when you work out here with the tool. Doing this in your home, your garage, at your cabin, much easier. Because, well, you're not going to have to kneel down. When working with a shorter axe, I'm sure you know, it's always the safe way to go, kneeling down. Now, you can see by how the paint wore off how much I used this one. This one's the latest. I had the X7, the X11, and now this one. This is on its third outing. And one time I carried it out here I hiked for about 2.5 hours. I took my dog out for a walk and I carried this in my backpack just so I could stop, and I have a fallen tree here and I cut up a piece just to see how it would do, and I wasn't sorry because these things interest me. I'm very curious about them, and it did an excellent job. I've sharpened, I have mentioned this before, a lot of Fiskars hatchets, the X7 mostly, and X5. And until I bought mine, I wasn't really that impressed with them, because I never really worked with one and didn't really try to break it, but did my best to put it in difficult situations. And I do like the Gonzo one very much because of the extra wide cutting edge. For the Gonzo, it's about the same size as the X7. I think the edge is, I haven't measured it, but it might be as big as this one, or maybe bigger, a bit bigger maybe. And it's a bit thinner grind. Now, a few people told me that you should be really careful with thinner grinds, because if you want to split hardwood or work in hardwood, they might break. To which I said, really? Because I do remember posting a video about the Ground Source Brook, which I had a friend of mine thin out, and that one broke. But it wouldn't have broke if I would have used it like I'm using this one now. What I did with that one was chop cross grain. that's where your forces come in. That's where you need to be careful. Now this is a softer steel, and as such, as soon as you hit something a bit harder, it's gonna bend. But that's okay. As the older you get, the more you change certain opinions about tools and how they should work. Now let's see how we do with this one. I'm not trying to make it easy on myself or the axe. There you go. Didn't want to split here. Wanted to split on the other side, which is okay. What was I saying? Yeah, about cutting, chopping, and trying to actually go through something cross-grain. That can be damaging to your tools. Now I consider these tools, and that's it. Honestly, if this one breaks, I don't care. I doubt it will, because, well, I did harder things than this with it. And like I said, the handles are very well known to resist a lot. Yeah, my aim is completely off. Hit the log 3 times. What I noticed, for example, I took my wildlife hatchet out here one time just to see how it would do after such a long time of not using it. And I noticed the edge is not aligned with the handle. So as you can see with this one, they're all made alike. The edge is perfectly aligned with the handle. For the wildlife, the edge tilts to this side. So anytime you're gonna aim for a certain spot, let's say this edge here, I'm gonna hit probably here. You're gonna have to adjust for that. It just depends on what you like. Some axes are made, ground differently on size, but this is just a tool, and if you can get it for a good discount, for a good price, let's just go like this, then it's definitely worth it. What did I pay for it? Didn't pay for it anything. Wife bought it for me. Was about $30. So for $30, this is fantastic. Now there still is the question of, is this too much for what you need? Because me, honestly, I don't need anything. I just do this because, well, I enjoy doing it. I actually thought about it on the way up here. I actually overload my pack on purpose. I don't know why. I mean, I know why. I do like the exercise. It's good to get some exercise, but I like to have a lot of tools with me. And I'll just sit out here like I'm doing now and split wood. I'll even take pieces of wood to other, well, sort of campsites I see around here. About 2 kilometers that way. There's a nice little sort of settlement where some people build a few benches and a table, and took wood over there for them because I just, whenever I find a fallen tree, I'll take advantage of that and do this. So what can I tell you about the X10 that I haven't already mentioned in this 19-minute video? It's fantastic as a tool. Now, I could also do a chopping demonstration if I can find a bigger log here, and I guess I'm gonna do that. Also, I fixed the sheath, cut up the top part. I just Didn't like that one. I found a worse position to place anything. Yeah, if I would have thought about it, I could have found a worse position for everything here. But I didn't really think I was gonna make a video actually. I was splitting wood and then I thought, hell, I just start the camera and start talking. Start walking. All right. Let's see. Gotta probably hit the tripod a couple of times with the pieces of wood, but I don't. Now I wear gloves, and these are my gloves for maybe a year now, maybe less. I wear the cheapest of leather gloves with inner gloves, simply because I don't like getting a splinter in my hands. But this is pretty stable with gloves. You can control it fairly well with gloves once you get used to it. I'm just gonna take off my jacket. It was much colder when I got here, and I did my best not to sweat on the way up. Stopped and gathered materials. I enjoy doing that. All right, so you can use this with gloves, you can use it without. Let's take off the gloves, maybe put them under my sensitive knees. Yeah, that's one thing. If you have a steeper grind, at the beginning this will happen. Now, if I use this one-handed, I'm gonna go fairly well in aiming. But with two hands, it's a bit short. Now, is it the axe's fault? No. That's me. This is me. This is me needing to work with it more. One thing I did learn, and I'm going to share with you, if you have time, don't power through those loose chips, big loose chips. Things might go wrong, and they will fly. Yeah. Best place. Now, this wasn't that hard, wasn't that difficult. Well, it wasn't that difficult because, as you can may be able to tell, this wood is a bit wet and it's a bit rotten on the outside. Let's put our gloves on and clean it up. Honestly, I did not consider a 20-30 minute video, but hey, over here at Spartan John's, you get what you pay for. Yeah, maybe. Somebody told me that if I'm not careful when striking, I might hit the handle. And as you can just see, I did that, which stopped my edge from going into the ground. Is this something that you should do? No. Why would you do this? It's just bad. Now I want to do this because if this breaks, it should break now, but it won't break. Plus I'm filming, and if I raise this piece of wood up, then I have to reposition my camera. So there you go. You can do this in like I said, in a couple of different ways. Let me just move over here. And this would be the easier way, you know. If you're going to use this on a fire, if you want to start your fire with them, you don't want to leave the rotten part out. If you want to actually use this in a fire, this is fine. Put this on the bottom. It'll burn when the fire gets hot enough. And sometimes it'll get you some nice coal that you can reignite. All right. Just demonstrating what I was talking about here. See, I didn't hit the piece of wood, but I always got close to it. This is something that if you're gonna learn or get a bigger hatchet to work with, you're gonna have to get adjusted to. And there are some good tutorials out there. Very few, however. And I think when working with something like this, even for just for fun, you should always be very, very careful. Because if this flies off, and in case of axes like this, hatchets like this, which have a steeper edge angle, you want to take off just a bit, and you're going to hit the wood with the cheek, and it's going to fly off. And if you hit it really hard, like I did for the first time I chopped, if somebody would have been there, or if I didn't have a good grip on this, it would have went flying through the air. Now this has happened to me a number of times, not that it went flying, but that I actually hit it with the cheek and it went somewhere. I always like to be very mindful of that. So, well, you don't have to take my advice. My advice would be to actually learn from somebody who can be there with you and teach you how to use an axe, a hatchet. I taught my wife how to split wood with a hatchet, and I was there and I was being very careful, and I try to be extra careful whenever she's around to not do anything stupid. So she might get the wrong idea that that is how things are supposed to be done. So this, what I'm doing here, don't take my advice. There are a lot of specialists out there who have done it all, especially in the comment section. But somehow nobody ever replied to me with a video. So, I wanted to show you this because this is why this piece of wood was so easy to chop through. Most of the outer bark was rotten and didn't offer much resistance. I don't know how to place this so it doesn't go flying around and I can still split it. One thing that I do sometimes is when I have to chop up a big log, I will saw one half, then turn it around, and then chop to that sawed off portion. It's much easier for me. That's the simplest way. If you want to actually spare your energy. Sometimes that is not the objective, like for me now. Not at all the objective. For me right now, it's to see if I can put this through something it can handle or can handle with more difficulty. Well, this is all wet, so it's not going on today's fire. I like to make a fire, and people say, why do you need to split wood, baton wood? There are so many dry sticks on the ground. Well, obviously you never made a split wood fire to compare with. split wood fire, if the wood is dry like that one over there, it's going to burn much cleaner, less ashes, less coal, and it's going to give up a lot of more heat. Now, yeah, you can use stuff with bark on it. That's going to increase the burn time, but the heat won't be the same that it gives off, and there'll be a lot more smoke. So this is actually just me improvising. This is a bad position for me to sit in. It's not very comfortable, and I don't have a lot of control. And this is what I'm talking about. At home, if you have a cabin or something, things are gonna go over way easier. But out here, you have to improvise. That's where it can get tricky. It's just, see, this is a bit wet. The grain is not straight, so I'm hitting it and it bounces back when I want to stick the corner in it, like I did with that dry piece of wood. Now, be careful of this bulge in the handle. Gonna tell you why in a second. You see, with the Fiskars X10, I always grabbed it like this. Now, it feels very comfortable. You feel like you have a lot of control like this, and gives you more reach. But then when you have long pieces of wood like this, see what happens? And it happened to me many, many times. That was one of the reasons why I started to wear gloves. And the other one is, see my knuckles here? They're all scarred from splitting wood with stuff, and which was longer than the blade or than the tool. And I got here and I hit my knuckles. So, in perfect conditions, you probably don't need to worry about that. You're gonna have nice pieces of wood which are dried in good conditions, and they're not going to be as stubborn. But this piece of wood was, it died, it got rained on, it got wet, it dried out, it got wet again, and they tend to be more stubborn, and especially when the grains are not straight. Well, you can argue with me on that, but until you try it, laboratory conditions are great. But out here, it's something else. And I am not advocating survival or anything like that. For me, I'm more curious on how the tool performs, how much it can take. And if after working with it for maybe, I don't know, a month, two, and making a video about it, will I still carry that particular tool? That is the question for me. My knees. So, probably one of the longer videos which I've posted. But then again, like I said, it's nothing too spectacular. I didn't actually intend for this to be even a video. I sometimes will film stuff just to have it for me, just me working with a certain tool, and then see how I personally improved. When I started working with hatchets and axes, I always filmed so I could later try to be as safe as possible. And I filmed myself and I saw, oh, that didn't look good. Sometimes it's the camera, and sometimes just not paying attention. Now, all I did to this axe was sharpen over the initial edge after I used it. The initial edge on Fiskars is fairly weak and it'll bend, but that is quickly corrected with the smallest of pocket stones, ceramic or diamond or whatever. You don't need to put a razor edge on this. This right now, I mean, I can feel it's sharp. It's got, I don't think it has any chips in it. I could still make some wood shavings with it if I want, so that's okay. I don't want to do this. But that's sharp enough. As long as you don't hit anything hard, rocks. I don't really have any rocks here. or nails. If you are going to cut up some old wood that's been used in constructions mainly, or who knows, people do spike trees, then you might get a chip or anything else in the edge. Other than that, this is fine. I don't take care of my Fiskars axes and hatchets. I will work with them, and then the way I leave them out here, that's the way they go in the sheath, and then that's it. Whenever they get rust spots, this is just bark from the wood which stayed on the blade. Whenever they get any rust spots or anything, the cleaning I will put them through is out here when I chop some dry pieces of wood and just also remove or clean up some pieces of wood, and that will also remove all the dirt, rust, gunk which is formed on the edge. Edge retention quite good. I wasn't the biggest fan of Fiskars about a year ago, but after I got my first X7 and actually wanted to see how it compared to the Gonzo, that one I like and I still like, but these have a much sturdier handle. And if you can get them for a good price, yeah, they're awesome tools. It all depends on the price you have to pay for a tool. And with this one, honestly, if I would have to choose between my X7, my X11S, and X10, I would take the X10. For me, it's not too much to carry. After I fix the sheath, remove this top handle, it fits in my backpack very well. It weighs 1 kilogram, that's 2.2 pounds, 2.25 pounds. For me, it's not too much to carry. I don't mind the weight. Mainly, I mind the bulk. And now, this does excellent. Now, I do prefer wooden handled hatchets and axes, simply for comfort in hand, feel in hand. Maybe this one's pretty comfortable. It's pretty grippy. I have no issues with this handle. It's very well made. And some people wonder if this is going to be a problem, that it's empty on the inside. No, it's just all the weight is in the axe head, and it does an excellent job. But I do prefer the wooden ones, you know, a bit curved. They do add a lot. I don't know. I think I presented my Husqvarna carpenter's axe. That one is actually, when I got mine about 5 years ago, I think, it was for a very, very good price. Now it's a bit maybe overpriced, but it's still one of the best axes out there. It splits very well. It can remove material very well. It weighs about 1.5 kilos. That's 50% more than this one, but it has a wider edge. You don't need to regrind it after you get it. At least mine. It has a very thin grind, and surprisingly, it splits very well. Plus, the sheath is fantastic. Very thick, very sturdy sheath. And all I did to it was basically put a lot of linseed oil on the handle and on the sheath and sharpen it, but I didn't change the edge angle or anything. So this was a very long video about the Fiskars X10. Hope you liked it. Hope you heard something that you didn't hear somewhere else. Maybe there'll be another video, who knows, about this one. I don't think so. I'm not a really hatchety channel. I do like them. I do work with them. I have about, at this point, I think 7. And they're all awesome. But yeah, hope you liked the video. Maybe I told you something, like I said, you didn't hear anywhere. Well, that's very important to me. And to me, more important than talk is actually showing it. Yeah, because few people do. So comment down below, like, subscribe, check out the description. Thanks for watching, and as always, have a great day.